you ever feel like you're hiding, trying to be like someone else or trying to live up to what someone else wants you to be? Good morning. Trust me, I thought about doing the whole sermon behind this, but didn't think Rob would like that. So my name is Chris Harris, for those of you who don't know me, and I am very honored and a bit nauseous to be up here with you guys today. I have a little backstory of how I got to be up here. I was asked by a group of ladies to speak at our women's conference that we had in February, which if you have not been to one of those, ladies, you need to. They're very, very empowering. And I was like, sure, I can do that. It's no big deal. Of course, it was months ago. And as time got closer, I kind of got freaked out and thought, I can't do this. I don't have anything to share. I don't have a good story. I had no confidence. And I even asked them if I could not speak because I was that just kind of blocked and freaked out. And they were very gracious and told me that if I didn't feel right or ready, that I could step away. But as I kept thinking about it, it was like Satan was just gnawing at me about not being good enough, not having a good story, not being able to reach anybody. And I was buying into that. And I thought, no, I'm not doing it. I'm going to be obedient to God, and I am going to share. And if hopefully it touches just maybe one person. So I did it, and I was so very honored to actually speak, and we had a blast. And then Rob comes up to a few of us and said, he wanted to have a Mother's Day, kind of like the whole month of May, have women speak. And he asked me to do it. And I'm thinking, what did I get myself into? But I am being obedient again because I still had those feelings. I mean, we all do. We all feel like we're not good enough. But that's okay because I am being obedient to God, and that's what matters. I want to talk to you guys about this problem that we have in becoming the hero that God wants us to be. The problem is we're all hiding behind a mask or a shield of some sort. Let's look at the series graphic again. Becoming all that God intended you to be. He doesn't want us to hide behind this shield, so I guess I have to put it down. But I might take it home and play with it later on. And I'm also going to pretend that you guys are at my house. And I'm sitting at my kitchen table. I always have my Starbucks, and I always have a Kleenex box because we cry a lot at my house. And I really didn't want to cry the first service, and I thought maybe I could hold it together for a little longer than I did. Didn't work. So, welcome. You guys probably all remember a time in your life that you just wanted to blend in. I work at Loudonville High School. I've been there for 20 years. It's grades 7 through 12, and I've seen it all. And I think those years are some of the toughest in trying to figure out who you are. You want to blend in because you don't want to get picked on. You don't want people to think you're different. So we just continue that kind of in our adulthood. I mean, I know that when I was in school, I didn't want people thinking I was odd or that I was unique because that wasn't a good term back then. I wanted to talk and look and dress like everybody else. And again, like I said, we carry all of that into adulthood. I mean, sometimes we never understand who God made us to be because we're too busy comparing ourselves to other people, which of course leads to judgment. And women, we are not the only ones that do this. We have, though, perfected it. Sad to say. Thank you, Rob. You can go sit in the living room or something. No, I'm kidding. I mean, society hasn't helped. Let's be honest. They judge us by our looks, our weight, our parenting skills, our homemaking skills, whether we work inside the home or not. I could go on and on and on, but it is just so exhausting, and it just steals all of our joy. I mean, sometimes comparing ourselves to others isn't even intentional. We're humans, and it just kind of happens. Before you know it, we've sized ourselves up and measured someone else by our standards, and either they are inferior or superior to us. All because we are insecure about our own uniqueness. All because years ago, we all have a story. And why is that when you're in school, you remember the bad things? way more than you remember the good things. Let's look at Genesis 1:27. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. I mean, we were each handmade by God. I mean, isn't that so cool? None of us are the same. We might look like our brothers or sisters or our parents, but we have so many characteristics that God specifically made for us. So instead of feeling threatened, we should embrace differences. I mean, just because someone speaks a different language or is a different skin color, has a different religion, why does that give us the right to tear them down? Because we don't understand them. We need to embrace everyone. That is God's way of making each one of us different. I mean, it would be so incredibly boring if we were all the same. Let's look at Psalms 139:14. It says, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. I mean, we are God's unique creation. It's just that we have a hard time believing that. I want you also to look at Jeremiah 1:5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. That just blows me away that he knew us before we were even born, before we were even formed. He knew what characteristics he was going to give us, what differences he was going to give us. And none of that existed until we were born. 1 Corinthians 12:14-20 talks about one body having many parts. I mean, we can't accomplish anything if we all want to be a hand, especially if we were meant to be eyes and have a totally different purpose. Again, how boring would that be if we were all a hand? I want you to remember that you are a good gift. I have a little side business. It's called Unique, ironically, and it's a makeup and skincare line that is pretty much based online. And the company is a brother and sister who started this. Mostly women, obviously, are in this company. And their mission statement is to uplift, empower, and validate women. And it is so amazing how that works. I mean, I've gone to retreats and conventions where there are a bunch of women and they're all uplifting each other. I mean, ladies, we know that's not the norm. I just have been so blessed to be around people that it doesn't matter what you look like, what you know, your skin color is or anything like that, or what you come from, or how you even dress. We need to be that kind of person. I was at a retreat this winter, and we had to write down on a card something that someone has said about us that was derogatory. And she picked 8 of us. I was one of them that had to go up. And again, I was not happy, but I stood up there. She didn't tell anybody what was on their card, but she read off. And you could have heard a pin drop. It was so sad what people have said and some of the vulgar words that people had called other people. She had to sit down and write on another card something that we have said about ourselves. And one of the ladies that went up front, I've met her a couple times. We're kind of sisters because we both have the same "It Is Well With My Soul" tattoo, which is a long story that I'm not sure I'm going to get into today, but she went up front, and her story was years ago. She was getting ready for Bible school, and her neighbor had a pool, and she said, we're not going to be home, so why don't you guys come over and swim? The kids can swim while you're working on your Bible school paperwork. And so she went over there. Her 3 kids were swimming, and the youngest one needed to use the restroom. So she ran him in the house, came back out, again, started working on her Bible school info. And a little bit later, she hears her older 2 screaming and hollering. She looks up, and her youngest is floating in the pool. So she runs over, screaming. A couple neighbors heard her, came out, and they tried to save him, and they were not successful. So she said, this was all my fault because I didn't put his life jacket back on after he went to the restroom. And she struggled for years and years and years with that. Went to a lot of counseling, and luckily her husband was very supportive, and she, again, was a Christian, which I don't know how you would get through something like that if you didn't have any faith. But she wrote on that card that I don't deserve to be a mother. And this was years ago. And it just made us all weep because we knew that it was a horrible, tragic accident. But we didn't know, like, her journey, her walk. You know, if somebody would see her and see her acting a certain way, they would judge her because they didn't know her backstory. And none of us know a lot of people's backstories. We need to have grace. It's not up to us to judge them. I mean, she is a great, great testimony to growing through tragedy. And I am just very blessed to know her and to know her story. But we need to rely on God's opinion more than the opinions of others, which I have really, really tried to dwell on this lately. I mean, can you imagine how much less stress and drama you would have in your life if we only cared about what God thought? I mean, no offense to you guys today, because I am very honored to sit up here, but your opinions don't matter. Sorry, only God's. So that gives me peace, and that has given me comfort, and, you know, the nervousness has gone away because really I'm sitting here being a vessel for God, and that's, you know, why I'm here. I'm so glad you're here, and I certainly don't want you to think that I'm not, but seriously, if our thoughts and actions were focused only on pleasing Him, think about it for a minute. You have one person to please, someone who loves you unconditionally, who died for you, and only wants what's best for you. Again, I just feel the weight of the world falling off my shoulders because I have one person to focus on. That also means that you don't need to put your problems on Facebook or social media or respond to someone else's posts that you don't agree with. So take a look at this slide. I can see you're upset. Maybe you should post more about it on Facebook. That should eliminate any drama. And the next one, remember that no matter how tough things are, Facebook is neither your diary nor your therapist. I mean, adults, we need to do better. We need to stop posting things just to get a response. We post what a terrible day we've had so that our friends will build us up and tell us that, oh, it'll all get better. I mean, I know I've done it. I'm certainly not, you know, pointing at me as well. Again, things can be posted in anger. We don't know the journey that people are walking through, so we need to be careful with that. We also need to monitor our children's social media contact. Working at the high school has just opened my eyes to just so much negativity with social media. I mean, it's so unrealistic and mean at times, and people are, you know, putting things on behind a screen that you would never say to someone's face. We had a rule in our house when the kids were younger, when they first got cell phones, that we could look at their phones anytime we wanted, and we had their passwords, and they were not happy. But I told them I was not going to apologize for trying to keep them safe. I mean, we were lucky because we didn't have a lot of the social media on their phones at that time. I know I look really young, but they're, you know. And really, if your kids are mad at you from time to time, that probably means you're doing a good job. I always remember what Shelley likes to say, who's walking on the beach right now as we speak. I perform for an audience of one. I mean, I need to write that on my bathroom mirror and look at it every day so that I don't get caught up in all the drama of the day or social media or just work. And it is a daily struggle. I mean, we have to start each day with a certain mindset. It's not going to just come once and it's all the easy street after that. It's a daily struggle. Since Mother's Day was last Sunday, and Laura showed her cute little sweet babies, and Bethany showed her handsome sons, I wanted to show my kind of grown kids. Most of you probably know them. That's Taylor, Whitney, and Tori. And then, of course, I can't have a picture without my sweet little grandson, Grayson. I will have to say, he doesn't like clothes, so you're welcome that you got a picture with his diaper on, because he likes to run around the house with nothing on. But I took motherhood very, very, very seriously, and I still do. I mean, my kids are going to be my kids forever, and I feel like I need to guide them. I mean, I've been through so much more than they have, so if your kid thinks they're old enough, you know, they still need you. But I felt an overwhelming responsibility when I had them, because I know that one day I am going to be accountable for those 3 human beings that God placed in my care, because they're not mine. He loaned them to me. They really belong to him. And I don't want to screw that up. And just like my children are different and have different gifts, God made you different and loves you just like a parent does. When I stop and think about how many times I've compared myself to others or judged others, I really feel like I'm dishonoring God and that I am interfering with his work. I'm questioning his skills as a creator. Again, nobody knows what someone else is walking through. We're so good at putting a mask on and just plowing through. But who am I to make the decision about how someone is acting or how someone, was made? I'm essentially telling God that he screwed up or that he needed to work harder on that person instead of really worrying about my own self. We really need to help our kids learn that too. And men, you're not exempt. We all have to work together. We need to reinforce that they are made uniquely by God and that he is the only one they need to focus on. We need to raise confident, independent, kind, humble young people who are allowed to make mistakes and learn from them. And we need to embrace our uniqueness so they can embrace theirs. Think we can start today. It doesn't matter how old your children are. We need to instill in them confidence that God made them a certain way. They need to know that if they're being called a name anywhere, school, home, whatever, that is not true. That is not what God intended them. They need to just keep focusing. And yes, again, it's a daily struggle, but constant reinforcement to your kids, it's going to get through. This slide just really hits me. You'll never be who God wants you to be if you're trying to be someone else. You're going to constantly struggle because that is not the person that God made you to be. Again, you can't be a hand if that's not what God intended for you. And we also need to be content with who God made us to be. I do not like that God made me an emotional wreck. Sorry. I have it together a little more this service, but none of us are a mistake. There's things you don't like about yourself. There's things I don't like about myself. But again, he made us for this purpose. And as I mentioned earlier in 1 Corinthians 12 about the body of Christ, we each have a part to play in this messiness called life. We need to support and work with each other to accomplish goals. You turn on the TV and we're not doing that. All you see is hatred because someone speaks a different language or someone has a different skin color or someone is dressed a certain way. I feel like we're going back in time instead of forward. And we as Christians need to stand up and band together and say that's wrong instead of sitting back and maybe doing it quietly. It can be tough because things that we don't understand or people who are not like us, we tend to tear down rather than build up. But when we begin the journey of trying to do us and be us, we need people around us to support us. Listen to this story about female elephants. In the wild, when a mama elephant is giving birth, all the other female elephants in the herd back around her in formation. They close ranks so that the delivering mama cannot even be seen in the middle. They stomp and kick up dirt and soil to throw attackers off the scent and basically act like a pack of fierce bodyguards. They surround the mama and incoming baby in protection, sending a clear signal to predators that if they want to attack their friend while she is vulnerable, they'll have to get through 40 tons of female aggression first. When the baby elephant is delivered, the sister elephants do two things. They kick up dirt or sand over the newborn to protect its fragile skin from the sun, and then they all start trumpeting a female celebration of new life, of sisterhood, of something beautiful being born in a harsh, wild world, despite enemies and attackers and predators and odds. So there's a couple things I kind of take away from that. One is that we need each other. As much as some of us want to resist this, and I'm one of those people, I don't like showing some of the ugly sides of myself, but we have to do that. Because trust me, nobody has it all together. We're just good at faking it. Another thing is we need support. We have to have people around us journeying with us in this messiness, because we're going to doubt ourselves. The devil is going to constantly be poking at us, telling us we're not worthy, that we need to be like that person. It's going to be a constant struggle, but you have to immerse yourself in the things like I perform for an audience of one. If you have to write it on your bathroom mirror, I'll give you a lipstick. I'll even give you a unique lipstick to write it on there. And again, it's tough because when we don't understand people, we don't embrace them. We want to just tear them down and not build them up. When we start embracing our uniqueness, we need people who will circle us and support us. I had a very special person in my life who did just that. Her name was Patty, and she was the only person who knew me inside and out and loved me anyways, and loved me fiercely. She passed away about 1.5 years ago, and I still mourn her, as you can tell, every single day. I miss her so much. I'm so glad that she is in heaven, but I really miss her, and I miss her friendship, because I didn't let anybody in to see my messy side. She was the only one. And that is to my detriment, because life is so much more fulfilling when you have people who you can trust. And ladies, we need to do better with that as well. If someone tells you something in confidence, keep it. Be the person that you want someone else to be for you. That's what we have a hard time being. We love a little bit of juicy gossip, and we need to stop. And I'm learning through her being gone that I need people, and I'm trying to do better with that. We can journey and relate to people so much better if we show them that side, because we all have it. And we need someone who can scold us when we need to be scolded in love, because we're going to screw up. So please, ladies, think about that. Think about how you can be a better friend to someone. I need to think about that. I need to realize that when someone's talking to me, I need to keep it to myself. I need to pray for them. That should be the first thing. Again, I don't always know the journey that someone's going. I need to not criticize or judge them, because they could be going through something horrible. I just need to love on them. That is up to God to judge, not me. And I think of how this world could be so different if we just did that. If we just were kind to everyone. I mean, there again, it's not up to us to discern what that person needs. Just be there for them. We need to embrace God's plan. He made us different, again, so we have to work together. We need to embrace the you that God wanted you to be, the only one who knew you before you were born. Again, going back to Jennifer's story, losing her child, she has come to terms with knowing that God placed him on this earth for 3 years, and that was all that his time was going to be. It still, obviously is devastating to her, but she has a little bit of peace knowing that God knew that he was only going to be here for 3 years. We need to let God shape us into the individual he wants us to be. Again, the only way we can do that is focus on God. If we're trying to constantly be in the world and keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, that's never going to happen. And support others' uniqueness in becoming all that God wanted you to be and wanted them to be. Thank you.